In this video I'm going to paint a Christmas card in the style of Ivan Earl in Procreate 5, and I'm also going to animate snow in Procreate 5. Welcome to Steve Draws. I'm Steve van de Groot, a Dutch artist, and I've been working on a new challenge, and this challenge is called 12 Days Before Christmas. So each day before Christmas, so starting at December 12 until December 24, I will draw or paint a Christmas card. And I got inspired by doing these Christmas cards by looking at this book, and I already made a review about it. It's called Awakening Beauty, The Art of Ivan Earl. And unfortunately this book is not available anymore. But there are some pictures of Christmas cards Ivan Earl painted before he started to work at the Disney Studios. But you can find a lot of samples of his work when you just Google his name, Ivan Earl, and then Christmas card. You'll see a lot of images. But I will go over some of these images I have found on Google, and derived from that, we're going to paint in the style of Ivan Earl. When you look at the work of Ivan Earl, it is very graphical. And I'm just going to go to the section to the beginning of his career. And there you see that he first created Christmas cards. And I'm just going to show you, there's just a few in them in this book. So this is a book with all of his Christmas cards, and it is still available, but it's very expensive. And he wrote something very interesting about, doing these Christmas cards. I never planned to be involved with Christmas card designing. It simply happened as a means of survival. Somehow the designs pour out of me with almost no effort at all. I was never critical of my own work. I simply turn out one or two or even more designs in one day. For one thing, to me every day is Christmas. Every creation is divine. Cover the ugliest rundown shack with snow, and it becomes a magic vision of purity. Every mother with her child is a Madonna. The first prints he did were in a number, and they were lino cuts. So he had to cut each color on a separate lino cut, and then he had to bring the colors together. So he hand printed all of these first Christmas cards. So you see that this one is built up from two colors, so a dark blue and a lighter blue. Here you have dark blue, a gray value, and black. And these are very simple designs, and he kept doing that, but when you look at his other work, it becomes more of serigraphs, and some of them, this is for instance an oil print or an oil painting, and these are all serigraphs you could buy. These are some other Christmas cards I got from Google. So when you type in Ivan Earl and then Christmas cards, you can see a lot of his work. And these are all prints. And you can see that it is still very graphical. When you zoom in, he uses a lot of structures, but the color palette is very limited. So for the illustration I'm going to do, or the Christmas cards I'm going to design, I'm going to use a very small palette of colors. Some of them were done in gouache, and some of them were done in oil paint. But his style remains very graphical. The designs are very graphical in the design, so big objects, and then he adds structures to his trees and other things. And I think this is a lino print, so it's the use of, I think, 3 colors, so the red, black and the aqua tint, and even what's for 4 different colors. This one I like very much because the sun is coming from the left, and then you can see the shadows that are cast on the snow. And I like this color scheme a lot, so I'm going to use these colors to create my own Christmas card in the style of Eyvind Earle. So I'm going to open up Procreate and first make a new canvas. I'm just going to choose screen size. The first thing I'm going to do is import the image just to get the same color scheme. So go to Add, insert a photo, and then choose your picture. So this is the one. I'm just gonna color pick these colors, and there's a little bit of a gradient in here. So what I'm going to do now is create a new palette. So I'm gonna choose the darkest blue and go to palettes, make a new palette. Just call this Christmas. Done. Now it's set to default. So now I can, add the swatches. White and black. So these are the colors we're going to use in this painting. So now I can throw away this layer or clear it. And first what you need to do is to make a design. What I want to do is create a shack that's standing on a hill. I'm going to use the ink brushes, and there are some new ink brushes, so I'm going to use Mercury and Inca. But for the outlines I'm just going to use Mercury. First going to choose the background, and I'm going to set the background to this blue color. So now you have a nice background. And first going to create the biggest shape, which is going to be the snow. And I don't want it to have a straight line because it is sort of on a hill. So I'm just going to create a curved horizon. And you can edit the shape. And I can fill this color with white. On a separate layer, I'm going to draw the shack. And I'm going to do that behind the snow because it is on the top of the hill. And for that, I'm going to use black. Make it a little bit smaller. And this is just a simple drawing of a shack, which has a chimney. To draw it a little bit more in perspective. So it has a roof, and attached to the roof it also has a porch. With some supports. And some windows. And I want to keep this very graphical. Also need some trees. These are pine trees because we're in the snow. And I'm gonna draw 2 trees here and another one here. It's just better for the composition. And I'm gonna draw the second tree a little bit sideways, because not all trees are straight. And when you draw trees, you know, don't draw them very parallel. If you want to, you know, paint or draw branches, just do it more randomly. These are some of the branches. These are, you know, silhouettes. Make the trunk a little bit bigger at the base. And I'm gonna draw another tree up here. These are the big branches, and from these big branches, you know, you get the smaller branches. Just want to keep this as graphical as possible. And you always have to decide where the light comes from. I want to draw the light that comes from the left, so everything to the right casts a shadow. So maybe the light is coming from here, so you can cast some shadows of the trees and also of the shack. I'm going to use the light blue color for that. So just, and the hill is in a curve. So I have to, you know, draw that on a separate layer because the snow is on the top layer. So I'm going to create a new layer for the shadows. So shadows are a little bit more disformed because they're cast on the roundness of the hill. And also the shag casts a shadow. And you can feel the shadow. So now this is done, and I also want to have a path, to have a little bit more interest in the front of the drawing. So there's a path that comes from this door. And this part is in shadow. So I can fill it in with the same blue color. And I'm going to use this blue to add some more interest. So you see that it is a road that is created by a man. This is a very interesting brush. I'm using the Mercury. When you use it sideways, it is a little bit more transparent, or it gets more of a structure. So you can also, play around with that. So here you see this side of the path, that's graved out, or how do you call it? I just want to keep this very simple. And it's also in perspective. And because this path is dug out, the snow has to go over. But this snow is totally white, so I need a gradient in the snow, otherwise you won't see other things. So I'm going to use the Inka brush and create a lighter blue of this blue. Let me see if this works. I'm going to create a new layer. Now if you have different layers, you can test out things. So when you now paint on top of it, I'm going to create a new layer and use pure white. And I'm going to use the mercury again. You can create some interesting shapes because now you have a contrast. To draw some snow. So these are all the piles of snow, that were thrown on the side to create the road. And what I showed in the other image, with the light coming from the left to the right, the sun is very low, so it will drop longer shadows. And I don't want to overdo it, because I want to keep this image as graphical as possible. So I'm going to use this blue again now to cast the shadows on the snow pile. And this way you can lift them up. Now I want to get a little bit of a gradient in the sky, and I'm gonna do that on top of the background layer. So I'm gonna create a new layer again. Now that's the great way, working digital, is that you can, separate all of your layers. So I'm gonna pick this color and make it a little bit lighter. And for this I'm going to use a different brush. What I really like in Procreate 5 is the drawing brushes. They have a nice structure to it. So I'm going to use Freycinet to create the gradient. And this has a very nice structure to it. So now we're going to work on the shag, and it's all covered with snow. So I'm going to the top layer again and then zoom in a little. Choose the inking, the Mercury. And snow falls onto a building, and it rounds up everything because it's just piled on. So it's on top of this. And this is a separate part of the roof. And this is the roof of the porch. But I want to add some shadow to it because the sun comes from the left. So this part is going to be a little bit darker. And to create more volume, because this is the shadow side, just add a little shadow to it. And the same goes for the trees. The snow falls onto the little branches. Also on the top. Of the biggest branches. and on the base of the tree as well. That you can create with, small dots, because it's not entirely covered. And you can also draw some shadows to create more depth in the snow. I'm gonna do the same for these trees. Select white. So most of the snow are on top of the tree. So there's more snow here than on the end of the branches because they go down. And because this tree is a little bit more sideways, there's some more snow on the side of the tree. Just add some little dots. To create some scattered snow that's on the tree. So I'm going to use the shadow to create more depth. So this side of the tree is in shadow, and maybe it has some highlights of the snow. I think I still need some color on the shag, so maybe add a more of a gray tone of the black to fill in the color. And you always have to look where the drawing is. So this is the drawing of the shag. I'm gonna create a new layer just to fill in this color as a fill-in for the shag. Maybe even make it darker. So this is the Christmas card, and now I'm going to add snow. Best thing to do that is to save this file in your gallery. Just gonna name it Christmas card. I think it's day 5. Done. And then duplicate it. And open the duplicate. What I'm now going to do is merge all of these layers into one layer. You can do that by dragging them together. And I'm gonna turn on Animation Assist. You can do that by going to Actions, Canvas, and then turn on Animation Assist. Now you have one frame, and that's this painting. When you tap on it, you can set it to background. And I'm gonna add a new frame. And what I'm going to do is make a group, because a group can also react as one layer. And this is set to background. To do the snow, I'm just going to create a temporary layer with this blue. And I'm going to add a new frame. And in this frame, I'm going to make the animation of the snow. I'm going to use the same colors. So white is the snow. And I'm going to use Inca, which has a little bit more of a structure to it. And what I'm first going to do is make the first frame. And I'm just going to add snow to it at different sizes. And just make it as random as possible. So bigger blobs. You can draw some of the blobs. So bigger and smaller. You don't have to be that precise, but have to build up the snow that it consists of snow that's closer to you, so bigger blobs and smaller ones, so that you get a nice variety of snowflakes. So this is the first frame, and when you press on the frame you can duplicate it. So I'm going to duplicate this frame. I'm going to turn on transform and drag it down a little bit. And I'm also going to turn off the onion skinning, because I really don't need it. I'm going to set it to 12 frames per second, and I'm just going to add new snow on top of it. So the snow is falling down, of course, and I'm going to duplicate this layer again and just repeat it. and add snow on the top. So I'm gonna fast forward doing the snow, and then I'm gonna show you the final Christmas card design with the animated snow. So now I've finished with the snow, and you can check all the layers, and I think there are 19 frames of snow. And when you turn on the settings to loop, it starts looping, and it looks a little bit like this. With the animation assist, you can also add a foreground. So I'm going to pause this, go to the last frame, then add a frame, tap on it, and set this to foreground. And now we can add some text on top of the Christmas card. Going to Actions, Add, Add Text, and here you can type in Seasons Greetings, and Edit Style, so you can make it a little bit bigger and drag it down here and change the font size, or the font, maybe, well, just look what looks great. And you can also change the color. You can change the color by tapping on the color wheel and maybe do a different color, maybe a green, or maybe even red, and then go back to the layer. So I have to delete this layer because that's not going to work. So I have to set this layer to a foreground, and maybe make it a little bit bigger. Set it to magnetics so it keeps the same aspect ratio. And maybe make it black and color it in. So I have to go back to the layer, edit text, and then make it black. I'm gonna make this layer a rasterized layer so I can fill in the gaps with red. And for that you can just use drop color. And maybe you can add some snow to it as well. Just use the mercury and use the same white to draw some snow on top of the letters. Turn on play, and here you have a Christmas card with animated snow. You can save this either as a JPEG, so you have just a still image of it and save it to your images. Or you can save it as a PDF, PNG files, an animated GIF, an animated PNG, or an animated MP4. And I'm gonna save this as an animated MP4 so I can, edit it in Premiere. So this is how you can make an animated Christmas card in Procreate 5. There's also another playlist I made, and I'll leave a link in the description box down below as well. Or you can press on the I, and that will take you to the challenge I did in 2018. And these were all pictures of my own character, Horus Hippo. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video if you want to share it with your friends. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, because each time I upload a new video, you get a notification. Drawing is fun, and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!